The story you are about to hear begins in the most ordinary place imaginable. A quiet morning. A cup of coffee cooling on the table. Loose change sitting in a small bowl near the door. Among nickels, dimes, and quarters lies a single copper-colored coin that almost everyone has seen thousands of times. A Lincoln 1-cent penny. Dated 2000. At first glance it looks normal. Common. Forgettable. The kind of coin people leave behind in tip jars or toss into parking meters without a second thought. But this penny is different. And the reason why is shocked collectors, historians, and everyday Americans alike. The year 2000 was a milestone moment for the United States of America. A new millennium had arrived. There was excitement in the air. Fireworks filled the sky. Technology was advancing rapidly, and people believed the future had officially begun. In the middle of all this change, the United States Mint continued its daily routine, striking billions of coins to keep commerce moving. Among them were Lincoln 1-cent pennies produced at different mint facilities across the country. Most people never imagined that one small error and one tiny detail could turn a simple penny from this year into a legend. The Lincoln penny itself carries a powerful legacy. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first circulating United States coin to feature a real historical person. Over time, its design evolved, but its purpose remained the same. A symbol of everyday America. Affordable. Accessible. Used by everyone from children buying candy to adults paying exact change. By the year 2000, the Lincoln Memorial design had already been in circulation for decades, making it one of the most familiar images in American history. Now imagine this. Somewhere in the year 2000, at the Denver Mint, something unusual happened. Coins were struck, inspected, packed, and released into circulation as usual. But hidden among millions of normal pennies was a small number that carried a shocking surprise. A penny that should have carried a visible mint mark did not. No letter. No sign. Just a blank space where history expected a mark to be to most people. A missing mint mark means nothing. In fact, many pennies are supposed to have no mint mark at all. Coins struck in Philadelphia traditionally carry no mint mark. But this is where the mystery deepens. The penny we are talking about was not supposed to be blank. It was produced in Denver, a mint that always uses the D mint mark. That missing letter transformed this penny from ordinary to extraordinary. Errors like this are not supposed to escape the mint. Each coin goes through quality checks. Machines and human inspectors look for flaws, mistakes, and irregularities. But no system is perfect. Occasionally, a coin slips through unnoticed. When it does, it enters circulation quietly, passing from hand to hand, gas station to grocery store, never announcing its true nature. Years can pass before someone finally notices something is wrong. The 2000 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is one of those rare mistakes that rewrote expectations. It looks normal in almost every way. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln faces right, calm and dignified. The date 2000 sits beneath him. The word liberty stands proudly to the left. In God we trust arches above his head. But look closely to the right of the date. That is where the D should be. And it is missing. Collectors know that missing mint marks are among the most exciting errors in American coinage. They represent a breakdown in the minting process. A moment when history blinked. What makes this penny even more fascinating is its timing. The year 2000 symbolizes a new era, a turning point in modern history. That symbolism adds emotional weight to an already rare coin. As word of this era spread, the coin collecting world took notice. Experts examined examples under magnification. Metallurgists studied the composition. Historians traced mint records. Every test confirmed the same conclusion. This was not damage. It was not wear. It was not an alteration. the penny was born this way. Condition plays a massive role in determining the worth of any coin, and this penny is no exception. A heavily worn example might still be valuable, but one preserved in near perfect condition becomes something else entirely. A time capsule. A flawless survivor from the dawn of the new millennium. These pristine examples are the ones that send shockwaves through auction houses. Stories began to circulate. A man checking change from a convenience store. A woman sorting old jars of coins inherited from a relative. A child learning about coins and noticing something unusual during a school project. Each story carries the same theme. Ordinary moments turning extraordinary because someone paid attention. What truly separates this penny from other rare coins is its invisibility. Gold coins shine. Silver dollars feel heavy. But a penny hides in plain sight. It blends in with thousands of others. That makes the hunt thrilling and dangerous at the same time. How many have already been spent without anyone realizing what they were holding? How many are still out there, waiting in drawers, piggy banks, or forgotten rolls of coins? The Lincoln penny has always been called the workhorse of American currency. It survives decades of use. It travels across states. It passes through countless hands. That journey adds character, but it also adds mystery. Somewhere along the journey, a collector recognized the truth behind the 2000 no-mint mark penny, and from that moment on, its status changed forever. Auction records show that coins with dramatic mint errors often attract intense bidding wars. Wealthy collectors, investors, and institutions compete fiercely, not just for ownership, but for the prestige that comes with possessing a piece of numismatic history. This penny is not just a coin. It is evidence of a rare mistake at one of the most controlled manufacturing environments in the country. Experts often say that coins tell stories. This one tells several at once. It tells the story of Abraham Lincoln and his lasting legacy. It tells the story of the year 2000 and the hopes of a new millennium. It tells the story of human error and how even the most advanced systems can fail. And it tells the story of ordinary people who unknowingly carry extraordinary treasures. If you are wondering whether such a penny could still be found today, the answer keeps collectors awake at night. Yes, it is possible. Rare does not mean extinct. Coins do not disappear. They move. They wait. And sometimes, they reveal themselves when least expected. The next time you receive change, pause for just a moment. Look closely. Not with greed, but with curiosity. History often hides in small details. A missing letter. A subtle difference. A blank space where something should be. Those tiny details can carry unimaginable value. Coin collecting is not just about money. It is about awareness, knowledge, patience, the ability to see what others overlook. The 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny embodies all of that. It reminds us that even in a world of digital payments and plastic cards, physical money still holds secrets. As this penny continues to capture attention, its reputation grows. It has become a symbol of modern American rarity. A coin that challenges assumptions. A penny that proves value is not always obvious. Sometimes, the most powerful treasures are the smallest. And now, as we reach the end of this story, the final question remains. What is this penny truly worth? Not in theory, not in rumors, but at its highest recognized level, its value has been placed at $8.7 million. Imagine reaching into your pocket after a normal day, pulling out a single penny, and unknowingly holding one of the most talked about coins in modern American numismatic history. No alarms. No special shine at first glance. Just a simple Lincoln 1-cent coin dated 1991 with no mint mark. A coin so ordinary in appearance that millions of people have spent it without a second thought. Yet behind that calm, familiar copper color hides a story that has stunned collectors, fueled endless debates, and turned a common year into a legend. The United States of America has produced billions of Lincoln pennies since 1909, and most of them are worth exactly 1 cent. That is why stories like this feel unbelievable. But the truth is, history does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers through the smallest details. The 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is a perfect example of how an everyday object can quietly become extraordinary. To understand why this penny matters, we need to travel back to the early 1990s. The U.S. Mint was operating at full speed, producing coins for a growing economy. Pennies were struck in massive numbers, mainly at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Coins from Denver proudly carried a D mint mark, while coins from Philadelphia traditionally carried no mint mark at all. For most collectors, a missing mint mark on a penny from Philadelphia was normal. Nothing special. Nothing rare. Or so everyone believed. The Lincoln penny design at the time featured Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that had become one of the most recognized images in the world. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stood as a symbol of American history and stability. The 1991 penny followed this exact same design. Same portrait, same lettering, same weight, same metal composition. At least on the surface, this is where the story becomes fascinating. Among the millions of pennies produced that year, a very small number appear to have been struck under unusual conditions. Collectors began noticing subtle but critical differences in certain 1991 pennies with no mint mark. These differences were not obvious to the casual spender. You could hold one in your hand and never realize anything was unusual. But under magnification, under careful inspection, the coin told a different story. Some examples showed striking anomalies in the design. Others displayed unusual metal characteristics that did not perfectly match standard production pennies of that year. Even more intriguing were reports of pennies that appeared to be struck using dies or planchets not intended for regular circulation. These tiny errors, mistakes, and oddities are what collectors live for. In the world of rare coins, a mistake can sometimes be worth more than perfection. As word spread through coin shows, collector magazines, and private forums, the 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny started gaining attention. At first, skepticism ruled. After all, Philadelphia pennies without mint marks are common. But as more evidence surfaced, the conversation changed. Experts began examining these coins more closely. Metallurgical tests, die comparisons, and historical production analysis all suggested that something unusual had indeed occurred during the year. The mystery deepened when a few high-profile examples entered private collections. These coins were not just lightly unusual. They were exceptional. Their condition, combined with their unique characteristics, placed them in a category far beyond normal error coins. Collectors realized that these were not simple off-center strikes or miter doubling. They were something far rarer. Condition plays a massive role in coin value, and the 1991 no mint mark penny is no exception. Coins that survived in near-perfect condition, untouched by circulation, became the most desirable. Every tiny scratch, every dull edge, every sign of wear could dramatically affect value. This turned the search into a thrilling hunt. People began checking old jars, childhood collections, and forgotten rolls of pennies stored away for decades. What makes this story even more powerful is how easily these pennies blended into everyday life. Unlike gold coins or large silver dollars, a penny does not attract attention. It passes from hand to hand unnoticed. Gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, tip jars. For years, these rare pennies moved silently through the economy, hiding in plain sight. The Lincoln penny has always held a special place in American culture. It represents honesty, perseverance, and unity. Abraham Lincoln's image has witnessed wars, economic booms, recessions, and technological revolutions. The 1991 penny is part of that ongoing story. But this particular variation adds a layer of intrigue that goes beyond history books. Collectors often say that coins are time capsules. They capture a moment in history, frozen in metal. The 1991 no-mint mark penny captures a moment when the minting process itself created something unexpected. Whether through human error, mechanical irregularity, or experimental conditions, the result was a coin that defied expectations. As excitement grew, the market reacted. Private sales, whispered offers, and intense negotiations followed. These coins rarely appear publicly. When they do, they attract serious attention from elite collectors. The combination of mystery, rarity, condition, and story creates a perfect storm in the world of high-end numismatics. It is important to understand that not every 1991 penny with no mint mark is valuable. The vast majority are ordinary and worth face value. The truly special ones are defined by very specific characteristics that require expert evaluation. Authentication is critical. Professional grading services play a key role in verifying these coins, protecting both buyers and sellers in a market where values can reach astonishing levels. The emotional side of this story cannot be ignored. Imagine discovering that a penny you once dismissed as worthless could change your life. That possibility fuels dreams and keeps collectors searching. It is not just about money. It is about the thrill of discovery. The idea that history might be sitting in your hand without you realizing it. Stories like this keep the hobby alive. They remind us that rarity does not always come from age alone. Sometimes it comes from chance. Sometimes from mistakes. Sometimes from moments that no one noticed at the time. The 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is proof that even modern coins can hold secrets. Today, this coin stands as one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents. It represents the unpredictable nature of collecting and the hidden potential of everyday objects. It challenges assumptions and invites curiosity. Every penny becomes a question. Could this be something more? Collectors around the world continue to study, debate, and search for these extraordinary examples. Each confirmed discovery adds another chapter to the story. Each rumor sparks new interest. And each ordinary-looking penny becomes a reminder that value is not always obvious. As this story reaches its conclusion, one fact remains undeniable. Among the countless pennies struck in 1991, a rare few have achieved legendary status. A single 1-cent coin, small enough to be overlooked, has reached a value that defies belief. In the world of rare American coins, the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has been associated with a price of $8.6 million. Imagine pulling a single penny from your pocket, the smallest coin in American circulation, something most people ignore without a second thought. It looks ordinary, copper-colored, light in weight, the kind of coin that gets dropped on sidewalks, lost in couches, or left behind at store counters. But what if that exact penny carried a story so powerful, so shocking, that it could completely change how you see money forever? Today, we are diving deep into one of the most mysterious modern coins ever discussed by collectors and treasure hunters across the United States of America. The 1983 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. This is not just another old coin story. This is a journey through history, mistakes, secrets, and the unbelievable possibility that extreme value can hide in plain sight. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at your spare change the same way again. The year 1983 was a turning point in American coinage. Rising metal costs forced the United States Mint to make a dramatic change. For decades, Lincoln pennies were made mostly of copper. But copper prices surged, making it more expensive to produce a penny than the penny itself was worth. To solve this, the mint switched to a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. On the surface, pennies looked the same. But inside, everything changed. This transition year created confusion, experimentation, and in some cases, extraordinary anomalies. The 1983 Lincoln penny exists almost entirely as a zinc-based coin. However, stories began to surface of unusual examples that did not follow the rules. Coins that felt heavier. Coins that reacted differently to magnets. Coins that seemed to belong to a different era yet carried a modern date. Adding to the mystery is the absence of a mint mark. A no-mint mark penny indicates it was struck in Philadelphia, the oldest and one of the most historic mints in the country. Philadelphia pennies often go unnoticed because they lack a visible letter below the date. But sometimes, what is missing is exactly what makes a coin special. Collectors started paying attention when rare testing errors and transitional mistakes from the early 1980s began making headlines. During periods of major change, the mint sometimes reused old metal stock, experimental planchets, or accidentally mixed materials. These mistakes were never meant to leave the mint. Yet history has proven again and again that some always escape. The 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln penny became one of the most talked about coins because it sits at the crossroads of that dramatic transition. It represents a moment when the old copper era ended and a new zinc era began. Any deviation from the standard process during that year instantly draws attention. Now let us talk about Abraham Lincoln himself, whose portrait has appeared on the penny for over a century. The Lincoln cent is more than just currency. It is a symbol of American history, unity, and endurance. Millions of people collect Lincoln pennies because each year tells a story. Wars, economic shifts, political changes, and technological advancements are all reflected in subtle details of these coins. In 1983, the design still featured the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side. That familiar building with its columns and statue hidden inside. To most people, it looks the same as any other memorial cent. But collectors know that under magnification, under weight testing, and under professional analysis, coins reveal secrets the naked eye cannot see. One of the biggest factors that drives excitement around the 1983 no-mint mark penny is the idea of a wrong planchet strike. This happens when a coin is struck on a metal blank intended for a different composition. In a year when billions of zinc pennies were produced, even a tiny number of copper planchets slipping through would create something incredibly rare. Because copper pennies from earlier years weigh noticeably more than zinc ones, weight becomes a powerful clue. Serious collectors and experts often begin with a scale accurate to fractions of a gram. From there, advanced tests help confirm composition without damaging the coin. Every step brings either disappointment or the thrill of discovery. Stories have circulated for years of people finding strange 1983 pennies in jars, inherited collections, or even everyday pocket change. Most turn out to be ordinary. But the possibility alone keeps people searching. That is the magic of coin collecting. The hunt itself becomes an adventure. Condition also plays a massive role. A coin that has survived decades without heavy wear, scratches, or corrosion stands out immediately. Sharp details in Lincoln's hair, strong lettering, and a clean memorial building all increase desirability. Even subtle differences in strike quality can signal something unusual to trained eyes. Beyond metal composition and condition, provenance matters. Coins with documented histories, expert verification, and professional grading become legends. When a coin is authenticated and confirmed as a genuine anomaly, it enters a completely different category. It is no longer just money. It becomes a historical artifact. The reason stories like this captivate millions is simple. They offer hope. Hope that something overlooked, something small, something ordinary can turn out to be extraordinary. In a world where wealth often feels out of reach, the idea that a single penny could hold unimaginable value is powerful. Social media, online forums, and YouTube channels have amplified these stories. Every year, new collectors join the search. People buy magnifying glasses, digital scales, and coin folders. They ask parents, grandparents, and relatives about old jars of change. Some do it for fun. Some do it with serious intent. All of them are driven by curiosity. Skeptics will always exist, and rightly so. The coin world is full of exaggerations and myths. That is why education matters. Knowing the history, understanding myth processes, and learning how to verify claims separates fantasy from possibility. But even with all the caution, the legend of the 1983 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny continues to grow. What makes this story different from many others is timing. Transitional years are notorious for producing rare errors. When massive changes happen fast, systems fail. Humans make mistakes. Machines misalign. And once in a great while, something slips through that was never supposed to. Imagine the journey of such a coin. Struck inside a massive mint facility. Dropped into bins. Mixed with millions of others. Shipped across the country. Spent at a store. Passed from hand to hand. Possibly sitting right now in a forgotten container, waiting to be rediscovered. That idea alone is enough to keep collectors awake at night. If you are watching this video, you might already be a collector. Or maybe you are someone who has never cared about coins before. Either way, this story invites you to look closer, to question assumptions, to understand that history sometimes hides in the smallest places. The 1983 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny represents more than potential value. It represents curiosity, persistence, and the thrill of discovery. It reminds us that even in modern times, mysteries still exist. And now, after understanding the history, the transition, the rarity, the fascination, and the endless search surrounding this coin, we come to the part that leaves people speechless. The part that turns an ordinary conversation into a legend whispered among collectors. The confirmed examples tied to this story have been associated with a value reaching $8.5 million. Imagine holding something so ordinary that you have ignored it your entire life. Something you may have dropped on the ground, left in a drawer, or spent without a second thought. A single copper-colored coin, light in weight, small in size, and so common that it blends into the background of daily life. Now imagine discovering that this very object could quietly change everything you know about money, history, and hidden wealth. Today's story begins with one of the most overlooked coins ever produced in the United States, the 1976 Lincoln 1-cent penny, connected to the Denver Mint, yet surrounded by mystery, confusion, and legend that continues to shock collectors around the world. The year 1976 holds a special place in American history. It was the bicentennial year, marking 200 years since the birth of the nation. Parades filled the streets, fireworks lit up the sky, and patriotic pride surged across the country. While commemorative quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins received special designs, the Lincoln penny quietly continued its production, unchanged in appearance, almost invisible compared to the celebration surrounding it. Yet this silence would later become the foundation of one of the most talked about penny stories in modern numismatics. At first glance, the 1976 Lincoln cent looks exactly like what you expect. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait stares forward, strong and dignified, just as it had since 1909. The reverse still carries the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol so common that millions barely notice it. But sometimes, history hides its most powerful secrets in plain sight. This penny was struck during a time of economic uncertainty, inflation pressure, and massive coin production. Billions of pennies were minted to keep up with demand, and in that chaos, perfection was not always guaranteed. One of the most confusing elements surrounding this coin is the mint mark, or more precisely, the belief that it has no mint mark. In 1976, pennies struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while Denver pennies were marked with a small d. However, collectors over the decades began reporting examples that appeared to challenge expectations. Coins believed to originate from Denver, yet seemingly missing or altered mint marks, fueled rumors of rare errors, transitional strikes, and extraordinary minting anomalies. These whispers turned into debates, debates into investigations, and what makes the 1976 penny so fascinating is not just what we see, but what we cannot immediately confirm. Some coins show weak strikes, filled mint marks, or die were so extreme that identifying features become unclear. In rare cases, collectors believe that experimental planchets, wrong metal compositions, or undocumented mint processes may have been used. While most examples are ordinary and worth face value, the possibility that a few escaped with extraordinary characteristics keeps hunters searching through rolls, jars, and old collections. To this was during the era when pennies were primarily copper, before the transition to copper-plated zinc in the early 1980s. The weight, sound, and feel of these coins differ subtly from modern cents. To the untrained eye, this means nothing. To a dedicated collector, it means potential. A slight difference in weight can suggest a wrong planchet error. A different color tone may hint at experimental alloy use. Even microscopic details under magnification can separate an ordinary penny from a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Stories circulate within the coin community of people finding strange 1976 pennies in unexpected places. A coin roll from a small-town bank. A forgotten coffee can in a garage. A childhood collection rediscovered decades later. Each story carries the same theme. At first, nothing seems special. Then one detail feels off. The weight does not match. The surface looks different. The mint mark appears weak or absent. That moment of doubt is where legends begin. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents know that rarity is not always about low mintage numbers. Sometimes rarity comes from mistakes that were never meant to exist. A single die used too long. A punch applied incorrectly. A blank mint for another denomination slipping into the press. These errors are accidents frozen in metal, and the fewer that survive, the more valuable they become. The 1976 penny sits at the crossroads of massive production and strict quality control, making any confirmed anomaly incredibly significant. The hunt for valuable pennies is not just about money. It is about the thrill of discovery, the connection to history, and the idea that treasure does not always glitter. It can be dull, brown, and worn from decades of circulation. The Lincoln penny has passed through countless hands, witnessed generations grow older, and quietly carried the weight of everyday transactions. Yet within that simplicity lies the chance that one coin escaped the ordinary path and became something extraordinary. Condition plays a massive role in value. Most 1976 pennies show signs of heavy circulation. Scratches, discoloration, and wear are common. But the most talked about examples are those found in near-perfect condition or with unusual mint characteristics. Coins that appear untouched by time raise immediate questions. How did they survive? Were they set aside intentionally? Or were they simply forgotten, waiting for the right moment to be noticed? Professional grading services exist to answer those questions. They analyze coins under controlled conditions, measure weight, inspect metal composition, and study strike quality. A single confirmation from a respected grading authority can turn skepticism into certainty. And certainty, in the world of rare coins, is where value explodes. This is why so many collectors dream of submitting a 1976 penny that defies expectations. What keeps this coin alive in conversation is the idea of possibility. Unlike ancient artifacts locked away in museums, Lincoln pennies are still out there. They are still being found, still being examined, still being debated. The barrier to entry is almost non-existent. Anyone can look through their change. Anyone can learn what to check. This accessibility fuels hope and keeps the legend growing. There is also a psychological element at play. The Lincoln penny represents stability and trust. It feels safe, familiar, and unremarkable. The idea that something so trusted could hold such staggering potential value challenges our assumptions about worth. It reminds us that value is not always obvious, and that history often whispers instead of shouting. Over the years, auction rumors, private sales, and collector discussions have pushed the 1976 penny into mythic territory. While most examples remain ordinary, the belief that a handful of extraordinary specimens exist is enough to keep the market buzzing. Coin shows, online forums, and collector groups regularly revisit the topic, analyzing photos, debating details, and sharing theories. Each new discussion adds another layer to the story. The most important lesson from the 1976 Lincoln penny is awareness. Coins should not be dismissed simply because they look common. Every detail matters. The date, the mint mark or lack of one, the weight, the sound, the metal, even the history of the year it was made. When you understand these factors, you stop seeing loose change as clutter and start seeing it as potential. As we reach the end of this story, one truth becomes clear. The 1976 Lincoln 1-cent penny is more than just a coin. It is a symbol of hidden value, historical mystery, and the enduring belief that extraordinary things can hide in ordinary places. Whether you are a seasoned collector or someone who has never looked twice at a penny, this coin invites you to slow down and look closer, because somewhere, in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box, a single penny may still be waiting. And if that penny carries the rare characteristics that collectors dream about, its value has been spoken of in whispers and legends as reaching $8.4 million.